Ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls, we're here with part two of Mother Teresa quotes. If you haven't watched the previous one, you might want to go back and check that out. Mother Teresa, even though she was, religious and went out and helped the poor and all of that, had so many really good quotes that apply to life goals, to self improvement, to hustling. She was absolutely a fucking hustler. A lot of these quotes apply to sex and dating and relationships as well. Straight into it. Number 20.
What you spend years building may be destroyed overnight. Build it anyway. And I can, I can very much imagine somebody in the self improvement community, maybe somebody with a more combative mindset, being like, "Fuck the haters. They'll try and tear you down."
Which is
um,
not quite what she was saying, but
no,
yeah.
and she's obviously quite a peaceful, loving lady. But I guess at least my interpretation of this is that do what you want to do or the thing that you believe to be good or like adding to the world regardless of what happens. Do it for the sake of doing it
Yeah.
and don't be attached to the outcome of it.
Mm.
Like, do it for the sake of doing the action.
Yeah, for sure. And you can use this, all of you. Apply this to your fears of rejection. So many of you have a strong fear of rejection. I'm just going to say like 90% of you have this fucking terror of like, what if a girl rejects me? What if a guy rejects me? What if someone doesn't want to give me money? What if someone criticizes me? What if my friends talk me out of this? What if society thinks I'm creepy? What if women think I'm weird? What if blah, 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 blah?
Mm.
People might have those feelings. People might reject you. People might not appreciate what it is that you're trying to do. Fuck it. Do it anyway. You might walk out onto the street after like months of self improvement, months of working yourself up. You might walk up to the first woman that you've ever hit on in your life and you might be like, okay, I'm going to fucking do this thing. And you punch yourself in the face. You're like, let's fucking go, baby. You walk up to the first woman. You're like, hey, you're cute. And she's like, no, thank you. I'm not interested. And you're like, shit, fuck. Great. You tried anyway. Go talk to the next person. So, in other words, like you said, this is a quote about outcome independence.
Mm.
Sometimes, yes, what you build may fall down. What you're trying to achieve, you may have stumbling blocks. You might get rejected. You might have moments where it feels like it's not working out for you. Fucking do it anyway.
Mm. I prefer you to make mistakes in kindness than work miracles in unkindness.
I have so much to say to this. This is like one of my favorite quotes. I bring this up to my coaching clients all the time. So, what I take from this quote and the way that I apply it is for a lot of you, you haven't had a whole lot of practice with like deep honesty and deep vulnerability and just saying what you want. You and I talk all the time about how you can just say whatever you want. You can be honest and upfront, like in dating, in business, anything like that. Here on the screen, I'm showing a screenshot of what you and I text girls, and you can have a look at the very first message that we send. It's like, hi, my girl and I, her name is Imi. We enjoy exploring BDSM and kink with women, helping them open up and explore in the bedroom as well as out of it. Is a BDSM threesome dynamic something that you'd like to explore? And so we're ridiculously upfront and honest. I am the same in my coaching program and with all of this content with all of you. But for a lot of you, you just haven't practiced that level of honesty yet. Maybe you want to be honest about the fact that you're looking for a casual, chill relationship. Or maybe you want to be honest about the fact that you want something deeper. Whatever it is that you're trying to be honest with, you're scared because you haven't done it before.
Mm.
Maybe you're scared to admit to a girl that you're a virgin and you have no experience. You're really scared. And what I say when you sit there and say, what is the perfect way to phrase this? How can I make sure I do this in a really good way? What I say is give yourself permission to suck. And essentially, this quote here on the screen, I would prefer you to be clumsy and make a mistake in the way that you phrase something than to try and make it perfect, to try and work miracles in unkindness. And so I say, as long as your intentions are positive, like you're trying to be honest, you're trying to see if the other person wants what you want, you're not trying to force or manipulate them. It doesn't matter if you're a little bit clumsy. It doesn't matter if you get it wrong sometimes, because what I've found with certain clients is they'll open up to someone and they'll be honest, but then they'll say, I tried being honest with my girlfriend or something, but she got really hurt. Or I tried to open up and share something that I'd held back for a long time and she was really angry or disappointed. And it's like, yeah, but your intention was positive. It's almost like as long as you have a positive, kind intention, don't worry so much if the result isn't exactly what you want, as long as your intention was as pure as you could make it and you had positive intentions. You know, I've had podcasts, we've done videos where someone will literally be hurt by the video that I did. Like they're not hurt by the video, but they'll say that they're hurt by the video. You know, they'll be like, this really hurt my feelings, blah, blah, blah. I feel like you called me out here. You really hurt me. And it's like, but my intention was to help you. I did remember the voice messages I was doing for people. So I've been recording a bunch of voice messages for some of you, basically giving out free coaching. And I did one for a guy, and I did a 45-minute voice message for this guy where I poured my heart and soul into helping him with his problem. And at some point in that voice message, I mentioned, hey, you know, the ego part of us sometimes, I mentioned something about the ego and the way that the brain works. And, you know, if you can help yourself let go of that ego part of yourself, it will help. And, you know, if you could just be a little bit more humble, that would help. And, you know, you're doing a really good job, man. But if you could just practice a little bit more humility, I think that would really help you, blah, blah, blah. So I did a 45-minute voice message for this guy, pouring my heart and soul into it for free, like free coaching for free. And he replied and said, like, he was really angry. And he's like, I don't have an ego. Like, how could you say I have an ego, which is something only the ego would say? I don't have an ego. You know, I don't need to be humble. You're wrong. You've just wasted my time, blah, blah, blah. But my intention was positive. And so even if that person got upset by something that I said, or if someone doesn't appreciate your honesty, if you're trying to be honest and compassionate, that will happen sometimes. Sometimes people just won't like the way that you're phrasing something, even though your intention was pure, and that's okay. So focus more on the intention. Don't worry if sometimes people get annoyed at you, as long as you were trying to be kind and compassionate and honest and upfront. Anything to add?
Another beautiful quote is work without love is slavery.
Fuck yes.
And we actually spoke about this a little bit in the previous video, that sometimes there can be a lot of glorification of like the hustle culture and it being really hard and suffering and not having any leisure time and work being really difficult and putting everything into it and being exhausted. But I think Mother Teresa is a perfect example of somebody who spent her whole life working incredibly hard. But my understanding is that the whole time her mission was to love every second of it, give as much love as possible, and never call it a grind or never call it hard or never call it suffering. Always understanding that life is a gift and an opportunity, and it's a beautiful experience that you get to have. And I think, or at least my interpretation of this quote, is that if you're calling your work hard or suffering,
It
that,
will be. Yeah.
yeah,
Like it literally will be difficult if you say that it's difficult.
and you're volunteering yourself to slavery. Like, how many people talk about office jobs or jobs that they don't enjoy, like their boss is
Yeah.
a villain and they're a
Yeah.
martyr, and why do they have to do this? And it's just this
Yep.
thing that I have to do so I can pay my bills. And I think when you put yourself into that position, you are making yourself a slave, so to speak, versus the opposite, where if you celebrate the opportunity that you have and see it
And
as a
be grateful
gift,
for it.
yeah, all of
Yeah.
a sudden it doesn't have to be this self-punishing process.
Yeah, either be grateful for what you've got, which is option A, or B, change it. Like nobody is holding a gun to your head saying you have to stay at this job or you have to stay with these friends or you have to stay in this relationship. People will put themselves in a prison of their own choosing, and then they will make themselves or paint themselves into the victim. But it's like, understand that you're the victim and the perpetrator. You're the one that's doing both there. So yeah, she talked about this a lot. Now, to be very clear, anyone who actually knows Mother Teresa and has read all her books will know that she was not perfect with this. And so that's another really beautiful message here. It's okay if sometimes you tell yourself the story that this is difficult. She certainly did a lot in her life. Like, she told herself that story a lot, that like, what I'm doing is really hard. This is really difficult. I'm struggling. But she was able to, a lot of the time, transcend that and say, it's okay. I'm choosing this. This is my mission. This is the best way that I can help the world. Yes, I'm struggling sometimes, but I'm doing my best. And so she tried her best to feel as much love as she possibly could for herself and everyone else. She wasn't perfect with that. And I think that is probably the best takeaway message from all of this is if you read all of her books, particularly her letters, there's a separate book that like published, the church published all of the letters that she had sent to her superiors, to her friends, to stuff like that. And she talked a lot about her struggles. And you come to really realize that this wasn't a woman who was just like blessed and the whole world loved her and she was Mother Teresa and it's so great and that's why she's famous now and we all know the name Mother Teresa even though she's been dead for decades. Like, no, she really struggled at times and she
Mm.
was not perfect and she really tried her best to make the most of what she had. You know, she was certainly given a lot of challenges in her life. And I think taking that message of like, this woman wasn't perfect
Mm.
and she gave herself permission to suck, which she absolutely fucking did, which is why we keep bringing it up in the content all the time. If she can do it, you sure as hell can too.
The next quote is that discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment.
Hmm.
And the way that I interpret this is that you can have these lofty goals and these aspirations, and a lot of people do. Like they set goals or things they want. They say like, I want $1 million, or I want a gorgeous partner, or any number of things. But there's one thing to say them and then actually take the steps to make it happen. And Mother Teresa was somebody that achieved so like an unfathomable amount in her lifetime, helping lots of people, like expanding massive like charity
Yeah.
organizations, making a huge impact. But that goal, from turning it into a goal into something that was actually tangible, some results, was, I guess, what she in this case is called discipline, but maybe what you or I might call action taking, or like you
Yeah.
need to actually put things into action
Yep.
in order to achieve your goals, actually start taking some of those steps. And we were just discussing that the word discipline doesn't necessarily resonate
I don't ever use the word discipline in my content
because,
ever. Yeah.
and I think it's not necessarily a loaded word, but I think there's a lot of connotations for people about like needing to push yourself and do things you don't want to do
Mm.
and forcing yourself to do things and kind of caning yourself. Whereas I think it can be put in a far more approachable, more peaceful way of just taking steps each
Taking
day.
action. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason I don't use the word discipline is because people will judge themselves by their lack of discipline. So they will take discipline as a value statement or as a value judgment about themselves, and they'll go, "I'm not disciplined. Fuck, I'm gonna beat myself up." And it's like that's you literally just still avoiding taking action. So the only thing that matters is taking action, like baby steps every day, just doing something to step towards your goal. Discipline, yeah, I don't even focus on discipline because again, if we say the word discipline, you'll go, "Fuck, I'm not disciplined. Therefore, I can't achieve my goals." And it's like, no, stop. You don't need discipline. Discipline is something that is built by taking action. Discipline is a side effect, a consequence, an outcome. It has nothing, it's not a requirement. But essentially, what you can read from her quote here is taking action or baby steps every day or doing something is the thing that builds the discipline that then leads you to your goals and accomplishment. But taking action is the only thing you need to do. That's why I say give yourself permission to suck. Take one baby step of action right now in this moment. Like pause this fucking video right now and go do something. Leave a comment below and tell us what you've done. And then you just keep doing that over a long enough period of time. And then that habit of taking action every day, that's called discipline. So
Yeah.
literally all you need to do is take some action every day. You're good. One baby step every day. You're good.
I love that you talk about habit as well, because I think the
Yeah.
idea of discipline is that something requires a lot of force and you have to really push yourself and you have to kind of grit your
People
teeth and
people
make
call it
yourself do
discipline, but
something.
they really just mean self-abuse.
I
Like some
think,
people take discipline to the point of abusing themselves.
yeah, I do think that's sometimes the association.
Mm.
And sometimes you could even look at like aspects of our life, like maybe the amount of content that you, Andy, record. You could say that that's very disciplined, or that I like to do exercise basically every single day. And you could call that really disciplined. But there's no force required in that,
It's not
for me at
discipline,
least, because
no.
it's become a habit. I think
Yeah.
once you start actually setting up your lifestyle in a certain way, like doing something that is progressing you towards a goal isn't actually discipline. After a while, it just becomes what you do and it becomes effortless. And for me, it doesn't feel like it requires discipline. I look forward to working out each day because that feels good for me. And so I like the idea of changing the word from discipline to just action taking.
Yeah. Yeah. Because again, you might look at this and you might look at general self-improvement advice, especially stuff like David Goggins and people like that, or like very masculine macho people, and you compare yourself to those people and you say, shit, they're disciplined, I'm not, therefore I'm not good enough. It's like, no, 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 no. The only thing that is common to every single person who's successful is they take action. Some of them are disciplined, some of them are not. Or you might say they're all disciplined, but they didn't work on discipline as a thing. Some of them did, like David Goggins. But how did David Goggins build discipline? By taking action. His very first goal when he was morbidly obese is, I want to lose 1 pound. Literally, that's all he did. Then the next pound, then the next pound. If you read his book, he talks about this. 1 pound at a time. That's taking action. So discipline is something that is a consequence of taking action. So taking action is the bridge between goals and accomplishment.
And the next quote is, I can do things you cannot. You can do things I cannot. Together we can do great things.
Yeah, it's about the power of fucking teamwork, man. You don't know how many times someone will be telling me that they're struggling with something. You know, I'm struggling to do this by myself. And I'm like, why don't you just get your friends to help you? And they're like, oh, I never thought of that. I didn't know I could talk to my friends about this. The guy I did the coaching call with yesterday, I did a coaching call yesterday, and he had not told a single one of his friends that he was struggling or he felt like he was struggling with dating. And I was like, bro, why don't you either sign up for coaching with me, like proper coach, like join the coaching program with me, or just tell all of your friends that you're struggling and ask them for advice. And he was like, wait, I can ask my friends for advice? And I was like, do you have any friends that you trust? And he's like, yeah, I've been friends with this one dude for like 15 years. Great. Does he have any results in dating? Yeah, he seems to do okay. Okay, why don't you just fucking ask him for advice? And he's like, I never thought of that. And I also said to him, and I say this to plenty of guys, why don't you just, on every date that you go on, 15 minutes, 20 minutes into the date, be like, hey, how's your dating life, going? How are you finding dating? And she'll be like, oh, it's going like this. And then you go, do you have any fucking tips for me? Because I'm still trying to figure this dating shit out myself. What about you? And the vast majority of women, especially if they're fucking single, which is why they're meeting you for a date, the vast majority of people will be like, yo, I'm trying to figure this out. Otherwise, I wouldn't be fucking single. I would probably have a boyfriend and be married or some shit. And so you guys can team up and go, hey, do we want to fucking do this together? And I told him that, and he was like, whoa, could I do that? Could I like have these women help me? And I was like, bro, why the fuck not? You could get together and say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. You don't know what you're doing. Let's figure this out. This is what you and I did, right? We had that big, long conversation, maybe 6 months into the relationship. Like we were dating casually for 6 months. And then we asked each other, do we want to build something serious? Like, do we want to basically make this a proper relationship? And I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I've had 2 relationships that just didn't make me super happy. You don't know what you're doing because you've never been in a relationship and everyone in your family is, not super happy or they're divorced or whatever. We're 2 people that don't know what we're doing. Do we want to team up and figure this out together? Do we want to meet every week for an accountability check-in and just read a ton of books on relationships? Do we want to stumble and figure it out and make the most of it and make progress and not be perfect, but aim to just improve every single week? We literally came together and we're like, yo, let's fucking team up and make this the best relationship ever. You can do that in casual relationships. You'd be like, how can we make this the best sex ever, the best friends with benefits ever? You have someone on your team.
And this applies to absolutely everything, as this
God, yeah.
quote perfectly points out. Like, there are things that you can't do on your own.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes there is an idolization of the story of like being the lone wolf and making it on your own and not needing help from anyone and like saying, fuck the haters and nobody believed in me, but I made it anyway. But in reality, one, you make so much more progress a lot faster if you're willing to accept and seek out the help of others. And 2, like, it's a lot more enjoyable. It's a lot more rewarding to be able to share that with other people and come together and create something beautiful with other people. And especially like this business, like I know it's been sometimes challenging to let go of the reins in some areas.
For
And
me.
yeah,
Yep.
and have other people help, especially Cam. And obviously I've been very involved. But it means that you, Andy, like specifically with the process of building this business, it means that you have more energy to put towards the things that you are best at, you are most efficient at.
Yeah, that
And
only
then,
I can do. Yeah.
and then other people can help in the other areas to make the business grow faster or more efficient, or means that we all have energy and then we all benefit from it and then can support each other. I know Cam and I and your friends, like it's definitely been a group effort. And it's funny that some people can tell the story that they've made it all on their own, but almost in every circumstance, there are people helping.
Nobody ever makes anything on their own, by the way. Like nobody who's successful did it all on their own.
Yeah, because
you
could you
know?
imagine if you were, or when you do try and do things on your own, you make so many mistakes because
You
you
don't know
have,
what the fuck you're doing, and you have no
yeah,
one to give you advice and give you outside perspective. Yeah.
you have no sounding board. And
Mm.
often there's so many people that have done exactly what you're seeking to do. And you can speed up your process and avoid so many mistakes by seeking the help or guidance or advice of others, other people who have made it, who have made all of those mistakes. The whole point of like why we do what we do and why you try and give advice and coach people is that so, you're, I don't know, at this point getting towards like a 10-year self improvement journey, that for somebody, you can share your 10 years worth of knowledge in like 3 months of coaching.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be very clear, like, you know what we just said there, nobody achieves all their goals on their own. The best example or the best proof of that is like, even if someone, if maybe one of you sitting right there is going like, no, I'm a lone wolf dog, I did everything myself, and it's like, you're watching my channel, bro. You want to be a little bit more grateful. Like,
And
you're
you've,
watching my channel, you just said you did everything on your own. So you've watched anything I've ever said, that's me helping you. You probably watched a whole bunch of other people. You probably read books. What, none of them get any credit? You're not willing to share any credit? You think you did everything?
yeah, your
No, you
parents
fucking didn't.
raised you, gave you
Yeah,
an
so you
education, you
raised
had
yourself, did you?
teachers, like,
Lived out in the woods and figured out how society works and how to fucking eat and how to hunt and all of that. No, your parents fucking raised you. The school system probably taught you a bunch of shit. You've gone through society which has taught you a bunch of shit. You've watched TV, you've read books, you've watched movies, you've learned from books. Like, so many people have helped you and taught you. But then to sit there and say like, it's all me, dog. It's me versus the world. It's like, okay, champ. Like, I guess you're all on your own then. Like, you also make it harder for other people to help you when you say, I'm a lone wolf, and everyone else goes, well, like, fuck you. You haven't given anyone else credit. Why would I help you? You're not going to give me credit. So, yeah, you make it harder on yourself.
yeah, and I think the like telling yourself rather than telling yourself the story that you are a lone wolf, telling the opposite story that like the like society or the world or the universe is behind you and supporting you. That's
That's
a fu-
so
that's
much more empowering.
Yeah, and so much more motivating because if
Yeah.
if you're having a bad day or things aren't, going super smoothly, to tell yourself like I'm in this alone and no one understands and I'm
It's
the only one I
something a
can rely
14-year
on.
old edgy emo teenager says. And some of you, I'll call you out because people seem to like when I call them out, which is really cute. So I'll give you guys, some of you guys, what you want. I'll call you out. Someone will probably reply and be like, whoa, I felt called out. You guys like when I call you out. Some of you are sitting there acting like 14-year-old emo, edgy teenagers from the 90s and 2000s going like, nobody understands me. I'm all by myself. Nobody cares about me. Nobody loves me. And it's like, bro, how about we paint over that little black heart of yours and we paint it a little bit red or pink? There are lots of people that care about you. I care about you. Imogen cares about you. There are lots of people that love you. There are lots of people that have helped you and will continue to help you. It doesn't have to be a dark, black little heart that you've got inside that chest of yours. You're allowed to let people help you. They want to, and they already are helping you. You're just ignoring it and saying, doesn't count. I'm alone. Doesn't count.
Yeah, and I think sometimes part of like receiving more love and support and help is by like asking for it and
Or
kind
just
of
letting it happen sometimes. I mean, fuck, man. Sometimes people try and help you and you go, no, it's fine. I can do this on my own. It's like, okay.
yeah, but it's
Okay.
so much easier to receive that support if you're receptive to having it.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, if you want the best help you're ever going to get with this, that's what my coaching program is there for. So if that resonates with you, there's a link in the description to that.
And the last quote that we're going to do for this video is that there is more hunger in the world for love and appreciation in this world than for bread.
Yeah. So many people like when they're saying bread there, she's specifically talking about like homeless
Tangible
people. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
resources. Yeah.
But replace the word bread with whatever you think your goal is. So like replace the word bread with like getting laid, or replace the word bread with like making money or being famous, or like whatever it is that you care about.
Mm.
What you actually care about is love and self-acceptance, and I guess acceptance from other people. You don't know how many times someone comes to me and goes, hi, Andy, I'm glad to be part of the coaching program. So my goal is to get laid a lot. And I'm like, yeah, but why? Why do you want that? And they're like, wait, what do you mean why? Because getting laid is fun, right? And I'm like, stop. Why do you want to get laid? And then they will finally open up and go, well, you know what? Like in high school, I felt like I was never accepted and I didn't know how to have sex and I was a virgin and I felt really uncomfortable and all the jocks and the cheerleaders were having a great time and I just felt like I was a mass nerd and nobody liked me and I felt alone. And I feel like if I can just get this sex life of mine handled, I will be showing myself that I'm worthy of love and that I actually do deserve happiness. And it's like, that's what you're missing. It's the love and the self acceptance and the happiness. It's got nothing to do with getting some fucking pussy. That's a means to an end. What you're actually hungry for is that self acceptance or that love. So let's fucking target that. Let's do all the things that will get you that. And you can just have sex at the same time. Sex is like a fun, beautiful thing that you get to explore as well. But what you're actually hungry for is love or self acceptance. And Mother Teresa recognized that more than anyone else, you know? There's so many stories in her books. You know, I've read all her books. They're highly recommended. They're really good. So many times she'd go up to someone on the street and it's like, yeah, they need bread, but that's easy. It's like, here's some fucking bread, here's some money. But no one's ever held their hand. And so that was the main thing that she focused on. And there are so many beautiful stories in her books where she talks about, you know, I walked up to this guy and he looked really sad. So I gave him some food and he was grateful. And then I just sat down with him and I just took his hand in mine and we just held hands for a little bit. And I looked into his eyes and I just said, "You're loved." And he started crying and he's like, you know, she was like, "Why are you crying?" And he's like, I haven't felt the touch of a human hand in like 10 years. Like nobody's touched me. I've just been out on the street. I didn't ever know that I would know what it's like to be touched. And like that was the most common story that she talked about. There's another book that she wrote that has a whole bunch of quotes of like her fellow sisters, like her fellow nuns. They all talked about that so much. They were like, what we do when we feed the homeless, like in a soup kitchen, we give them the soup and the bread, sure. But then we sit down with them for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes and talk to them. And we look them in the eyes and we show them that they're cared for and we listen to what they have to say and we ask about their day. We ask about who they are as a person, what they want to achieve. Like we treat them like a human being. And that's what people are missing. It's not the fucking bread. The reason why they don't have food is because they feel unworthy and unlovable. That's why they're fucking homeless. Otherwise, they would just get a job. They'd feel worthy of getting a job. They'd feel worthy of asking for bread. They'd feel worthy of just having a wife and kids and living a normal life. It's that love that they're missing, like the self love. And then they project that outwards and think, oh, nobody else will love me either because I don't love myself. That's what they're missing. And that is what all of you are missing when you think that getting a bunch of pussy, making a bunch of money will fill that hole in your heart. Those goals are beautiful. Making a bunch of money, you know, having a great social life, having a lot of sex, that's beautiful. That's great. Wonderful. Work on that. But the reason that you're doing that is because you're hoping that it will give you love. Let's just take the more direct route and work on that self love and give yourself that self acceptance, that self honesty, that integrity to admit what I'm really seeking is some fucking love, some acceptance, and some validation.
And that is exactly what and you and Cam and the other coaches are trying to achieve in the coaching program.
It's like the main thing we work on with people, like
Yeah.
above all else. And then you'll get laid as a consequence of loving yourself. You'll make a lot of money as a consequence of feeling that self acceptance.
Yeah, it's understanding that you are okay as you are. And when you're coming from that place rather than that place of neediness or desperation, it is so much easier to achieve the goals that you are seeking. Funnily enough, it is ironic, but when you start embodying the feeling of abundance and having enough and
And
being
being
worthy,
okay as you are and being worthy of love. Yeah.
then the goals naturally come and it becomes
Yeah.
so much easier. And I think
Yeah.
you could even say more importantly than the goals, because obviously it's a nice byproduct and maybe it might not resonate if you say like you can just be okay now without the goals. I think maybe people that might be too, or like anyone listening, if you are very attached to the goals, and I'm definitely somebody who's been so attached to some of my goals that I couldn't necessarily see further than like, what if you don't need to achieve them? I couldn't really see past that, or that didn't resonate, or that freaked
You were
me
so
out.
desperate for your goals
Yeah.
that you're never going to have a conversation of like, I'm okay as I am right now. Like a lot of you, if I say that, if I'm like, you're okay as you are right now, you're like, no, I'm fucking not. I need to get pussy. I'm a virgin. Please, I feel like a loser. It's like, okay, let's work on that goal and achieve that. But at the same time, work on some self love and some self acceptance while you work on that big, beautiful goal of losing your virginity or whatever it might be.
Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah, if you would like more help with any of this stuff, obviously I have coaching. I made myself short. Hang on. There we go. That's my like normal height.
Well, we're on
Let's put our
chairs, so
chairs
there's
the
no
same
sense
height.
of normal
There
height.
you go. That's my normal height. I made myself short so I'd match you. Actually, let's go super short. There we go. If you'd like any more help from a really short guy, I promise I'm more serious in the actual coach. That's not true.
That's not true.
That's not true. I'm a big joker in the coaching program too. But if you would like a little midget like me, by the way, this is how tall Mother Teresa was. She was 4'9", like a
She was very
fucking
small.
midget, bro. If you'd like help from a 6'1" guy, I think I'm 6', 6'1", something like that. If you'd like help from me, and I promise I will take the coaching a lot more serious than I am in the outro to this video, I will leave a link in the description to the coaching program. And actually, I make jokes on the coaching calls all the fucking time. Like all the fucking time.
Mm.
So if you'd like help, I will leave a link in the description. We have payment plans. I'm happy to jump on a free call with you and talk about if the coaching program is right for you. We've changed like 200 people's lives at this point. I would love for you to be the next one. Go out there, crush those goals. And if you want to, give Mother Teresa's books a read. They're really fucking good. And she has a lot of like quotes, but probably we'll do like a third or fourth or fifth part in this series because we've only gone through 20 of the quotes on this page and there's like 100 of them. So yeah, she has a lot of good shit to say. Help. I'm sinking. Help. Ah! Goodbye.